Chapter 5. And so I didn't cry. Not when I saw the bag Maggie had made to take with her, and not when I hung our good dresses outside to air on a rope. I tried to listen as Maggie taught me how to smoor the night fire. Here, Nory, see? The fire has never gone out, not once in 100 years. Cover it over with ash, but leave one piece of turf burning so you can blow it into life in the morning. Then, at last, it was Maggie's wedding day. We opened the door early to see the sun and the good luck it would bring. It was there coming up over the hill, even though ragged bits of mist still hovered over the fields, and the cliffs were hidden under a cover of gray. Father Hart said the blessing, and afterward, Paddy Mulligan's bow flew over the fiddle strings as Long Liam's fingers pounded the skin of his drum. That night, flames shot up from the bonfire in front of the house, and Maggie danced with Francie, danced in Mam's red dress, her hair streaming out in back of her. We clapped for them, all of us, the Mallins, the cousins who had come from Ballylee, and even Anna Donnelly, leaning against the wall, her pipe in her mouth. I sang until my voice was hoarse, and in between, Sean Red pulled me up to dance around the doorstep with my green dress, the wrinkles mostly out now, swirling around me. You look like Queen Maeve herself, Sean said, smiling at me. When the hills in back of us began to brighten, Francie took up one of my hands and Maggie the other. We circled the house to the music and had one last dance together. Granda and Celia and Patch half asleep, all of us laughing and crying as we held each other. It seemed we'd hardly slept when it was day, the day I dreaded. They'd leave this morning to walk the road to Galway to board the Emma Pearl. They'd never come back to Maiden Bay. A long road it was. Da had told us it wound around the coast like a ball of yarn let loose, but if you stayed on it, you'd reach the port and the ships. I turned now and saw the straw of my bed crackled beneath me. Maggie stood in the open door, and as quietly as I could, I crawled over Patch and then Celia and rolled out of the bed. I wanted to say goodbye to Maggie by myself. Outside, Francie slept against the wall with his brothers, and Paddy the fiddler was snoring with his head on his case. Shh. Maggie motioned me to follow, and when I caught up, pulled me along the cliff road. It's my last chance to talk to you, she said. A pair of gannets flew high over us, going toward the sea. I'll miss them, Maggie said. I'll miss you. My voice didn't sound like my own. I'll be in Brooklyn, New York, myself, one day with you. Maggie turned to me. I could see the flecks of gray in her blue eyes and count every one of her freckles. We were that close. You are the heart of this family, she said, with your songs. I shook my head a little. I couldn't speak. You will take care of Patchine and the others. She stopped. It was hard to swallow. Celia's older. She smiled. Celia's loyal and true, and between the two of you, you'll see, Dow will find his home and warm hearth the way he left them. At the top of the cliff, the thin mist came from Patrick's well. Beyond that, the sea was a shimmer of silver. Da's out there, I said. Maggie nodded, her eyes wet. When you see him, tell him we'll be together again some day. She took a piece of my hair between her fingers. I want to tell you, you who are always in a hurry. I don't see the Karaks out in the water today, I said, and to make her think of something else. Everyone is sleeping after the wedding. They're too tired to fish. She gave my hair a bit of a pull. Think of me when you're not sure of something, Nory. Her face was serious, her big eyes holding me. Know that I'll be there on the other side of the water. Think of what I'd say, what I'd do. If only I could tell her about the coin and Anna Donnelly, but what would she say? What would she think? Maggie touched my face. I don't even know why I tell you that. You'll know what to do yourself. You are a great girl. A store. A great girl. I loved the sound of it. And then we heard the trill of music. Paddy Mulligan with his fiddle out again, I said. He's playing for Granda, Maggie said. For Granda's war. The War of 1798, I said. We stood there thinking about the story we had heard so many times. Granda with his friends, young and fighting with the French, hoping we'd be like the Americans and have our freedom from the English. They had a new country out there in the States, Granda always said. They'd had freed themselves of the English just 20 years earlier. Why not us? Why not? I hummed an old war song about the Irish and their courage, and Maggie finished with me. But all their courage hadn't been enough. The English had an army and souls of vinegar, and they had killed, and we were still not free. Maggie and I went back together, and Patch ran to tell us Francie had gone to the Mallon house for his things. Maggie rolled up Mam's wedding dress and tucked it back in the straw basket. "For you both some day," she told Celia and me. I raised my head. "We will bring it when we come to Brooklyn." Celia nodded, her little nose as pink as Mallon's goat, her eyes swollen. Maggie was ready to go. The Mallons, all of them, waited outside. For a long moment, Maggie hugged us, Granda and Celia, Patch and me. Granda put the sign of the cross on her forehead with his thumb. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small piece of blue cloth. "Inside," he said, "is a wee bit of salt. Take it against the she." "Oh, Granda," she rubbed the bag between her palms. "I will keep it always to remember you." We walked with them, even old Granny Mallon tottering along. We passed the church so Father Hart could say a last prayer. Then we started up the hill. Patty played the fiddle and Sean sang. Sean said, "Sing, Nory." At first I couldn't open my mouth, but I thought of what Maggie had said on our walk together. I lifted my chin and began a wheedling song, the sound of it filling my head. At the crossroads, Francie lifted his pack higher and Maggie turned to walk backward. "We will be together again," she called. "Hold on to that." We waved until she stumbled and Francie took her hand. For another moment we could see them. Then they were gone. Pat sank to the ground crying, "I want my own Maggie." I wanted to sink down too. Instead, I brushed my hands across my hair. Great girl, a store. I bent over, holding Patch the way Maggie would have, rocking him. "You are a great lad, a store," I said, and I began to cry with him.